but I wanted to share this with you because I'm super excited about it. I talked about it a little bit in the last video and I didn't know whether or not I should share it with you, but I can't not do it, and I'll explain in a bit. But here we go. This is my new car. I didn't get rid of the other car, I'm keeping the other car forever, but this is a C63 AMG Edition 507. I'll just walk you guys around the car real quick. Shout out to Elite Motorcars in Concord. Oh man. So I know that this is probably really terrible lighting and whatever, maybe even bad audio. And I also know that, at least initially to most people watching this video, I'm gonna look like a materialistic prick. But for those of you who are thinking that immediately, please just indulge me. I'm gonna share a story with you in a minute that maybe might make some sense out of this. But the main point, in case you stop watching right now, is that to me, this car is a tangible representation of a ton of work, and the fact that I've been able to create or been able to take advantage of an opportunity for me to work really fucking hard at something that I love, and for that passion and that work to afford me the means to live a life that I could have only dreamed of as recently as a few years ago. For those of you who aren't really into cars, might be hard to understand, but like car reviews are like a pretty big thing. Like if you go on YouTube, if you go online, anywhere, you can see reviews for new cars coming out and so on. And I remember when I was in my undergrad at UCLA, I remember at the time one of my favorite cars was an E92 M3 from BMW, kind of like their quintessential sports car, right? And that car, in my head, I was thinking like, oh man, maybe one day if I work hard enough, I can afford this current generation of the BMW when I am 30 or whatever. And I remember seeing a video, actually, a review of this specific car, the AMG Edition 507, and thinking to myself, based on like the price and like all the features and everything about that car is one of those things that I would never ever even consider being able to afford. So the M3 was kind of just the best, as good as it would have gotten for me. But this car in my head, it was just something I would have loved, but it was just a fantasy. I remember around the same time sitting in my dorm room late at night, up until like 4 or 5 in the morning sometimes, studying for things like chemistry, for things like physics, for things like multivariable calculus in 3 dimensions or something like that. I remember studying for these classes and feeling, not even feeling bad about it, just feeling numb. Like I was working really fucking hard, and just not feeling anything, And to me, that's almost worse. It's like not being able to express my passion or do something with my passion, which at the time, every time I was studying, I'd be thinking of like, shit, I wish I could be training. I wish I could be learning about training. I wish I could be learning about nutrition. And a lot of the times when I was studying, I got distracted reading research for things like that. And I remember being somewhat, I guess maybe saying miserable is an exaggeration, that sounds dramatic, but I wasn't happy with where my life was. And if, again, I didn't think that it was a possibility, but if you had told me back then that I could live a different life, that I didn't have to, kill myself, going to school, pursuing something, and devoting myself and so much of my time and effort and emotion and passion, devoting so much of that to something that meant very little to me. If you told me that I could live a different life, if there was an alternative to that formula, I wouldn't have believed you. It just didn't seem reasonable. It didn't seem feasible. It seemed like a dream. Fast forward to around the time that I dropped out, maybe a year and a half later after this time. I talked about this in a previous video, and if you go back far enough in my channel, you can find the videos right around that time when you can tell I was not in a good spot. When I dropped out and I decided to do this coaching thing full time, my family hated it. My friends told me I was stupid. Very, very few people. There are 3 people that come to mind immediately that had my back no matter what. They supported me through everything unconditionally. And other than that, my support wasn't really there. I was struggling financially. There was a time that Christmas I could barely afford to buy gifts for the people around me, and after I paid for those gifts, I couldn't really afford to you know, pay for like some of the normal stuff that I need to take care of for myself. I remember that feeling and thinking to myself, for one thing, thinking to myself that that would never happen again. I would work so hard that I would make sure I never felt that hole, you know, that I couldn't provide for myself or provide for the people around me. And at that time, there was nothing in the world I wanted more than to be able to make a good, comfortable living from what I knew was my passion. And then fast forward even more. Fast forward to right now where I'm at today. I've been coaching full-time since, I don't know, full-time since 2014, but you know, I started the whole coaching thing when I was an undergrad. But full-time since 2014, fast forward to right now, I'm like, holy shit. Thinking about the amount of change that's happened in the past few years, and the fact that at any given time I have, you know, between 40 and 50 people on my team that are all equally passionate or, you know, similarly passionate as I am about training and nutrition. They want to learn, and I get to be a part of their life, and I get to be a part of their success. And that whole thing, that interaction, that exchange, that mutual support, if you will, that all these relationships, that is the way that I make my living. And that allows me to do things like drive this car, to live in this awesome place. Like, to think that I've been lucky enough maybe to have these opportunities, and maybe stupid or delusional enough to actually take a shot at these opportunities. That's why this means so much to me. It's not because I want to fucking ball out and show this on Instagram, you know, I don't need that. And in fact, if you look at my Instagram, there's nothing about my car on there. That quote that I showed on the screen before is actually something that I said at some point to one of my athletes, Daniel Yin. Shout out to Daniel. And it resonated really strongly with him, and he reminded me about that quote, you know, maybe a few months later, and again very recently. And I just feel like it's very relevant right now. Like, the fact that in the past, when I was younger, even a couple of years ago, the things that I dreamed about, they just seemed like dreams, the things that were out of reach, and I never really had a whole lot of faith in that. But especially the experience of me taking that leap of faith, leaving school, and turning coaching into a full-time business that I'm able to support myself, I'm able to live as comfortable as I could want to. That experience of going from, you know, being that kind of miserable undergrad to being where I am now, if nothing else, it's taught me that my world, our worlds are full of opportunity. As cliche as that sounds, all you really need is to choose something that you want, choose something that you're that passionate about, and be willing to work hard enough at it for a long enough time until that becomes real. So that quote, as silly as it sounds, doesn't just apply to me, it applies very much to most of you out there. And I know some of you guys are at a big disadvantage. Not everybody gets to grow up the way that I grew up or somebody else grew up. But even then, if you want something really fucking bad, you know, acknowledge your disadvantages, but also acknowledge the opportunities that you have, and don't be afraid to take a leap of faith when you have to. Just know, if you decide to do something like that and take that leap of faith, you better be ready to fucking work. Because I can promise you, this whole thing, as much as I love my life, as grateful as I am for everything, every aspect of it, it's a ton of work, more than I could have ever imagined, but I wouldn't change any of it. None of it. And as they say, this is just the beginning. This is just a small portion of my life that I wanted to share with you guys. And especially for those of you who have been on my team, who've been a part of my life in the recent past, or at any point have contributed to my success, I want to say thank you. However you have played a part in that. Thank you so much. So, in any case, yes, the car is just a car. It's just a thing, an object. But like I said, there's some deep meaning attached to it. At least for me. If you guys have ideas for future videos, drop me a comment down below. If you guys would be open to seeing videos about the car, let me know. Otherwise, I'll try to keep that off of this channel. If you want to see stuff about the car, though, I have a second Instagram for my other business that is going to be linked down below, so you can follow me there. But yeah, thank you guys for watching me. Thank you guys for watching this video, for being a part of this whole crazy life of mine. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.